winning blueprint presents.
5 minutes or less. Atlanta Falcons.
Welcome, I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the Atlanta Falcons in 5 minutes or less. I got 5 minutes on the clock. Let's get started. So the high point for the season for the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons started the season 8-0, their best start in franchise history. They ended up going 13-3 on the season, securing not only home field throughout in the NFC playoffs, but the first overall seed in the NFC playoffs. These are all huge accomplishments, great feats in the 2012 season. But for the Atlanta Falcons in the 2012 season, it was always about the postseason. Anything that they did in the regular season wasn't going to matter if they didn't get it done in the postseason. Matt Ryan had been over in the playoffs. So had Mike Smith, their head coach. And so it was time for them to win some playoff games. And so it was all about the postseason. And the Falcons found a way to win, as they have done all season long, having a flair for the dramatics, found a way to come from behind and win a game that they should have been able to win comfortably, blowing a 27-7 fourth quarter lead, losing 28-27 in the final stages of that divisional round postseason game against the Seattle Seahawks. They were able to put together a last-minute, game-winning, season-saving drive, culminating in a Matt Bryant field goal that gave them the 30-28 victory, sending them to the NFC Championship game. That was the high point of the season for the Atlanta Falcons. So now you look at the low point of the season for the Atlanta Falcons. And the Atlanta Falcons seem to perfect blowing leads just in time for the playoffs. They saved it and they used it right as the postseason drew near. They finally learned and honed how to blow a lead. They blew one in the divisional round to the Seahawks, but were fortunate enough to overcome that obstacle and win the game. They were not as fortunate, however, in the championship game against the San Francisco 49ers. The Atlanta Falcons once held a 17-0 lead in that game, then held a 24-14 lead before finally allowing the San Francisco 49ers to overcome that deficit and beat them 28-24 in the NFC Championship game. That was the low point of the season for the Atlanta Falcons. Having that game in their grasp, blowing the lead, and then not being able to come back and win the football game and get to the Super Bowl. That's the low point of the season for the Atlanta Falcons. So now we look at free agency activity for the Atlanta Falcons. And this one is pretty simple. Test the waters. The Falcons came into this offseason with about $4 million worth of cap space. That was before they decided to part ways with veterans like John Abraham, Michael Turner, and Donta Robinson, freeing up a lot of cap space in the process. Now they have a lot of flexibility and a lot of breathing space to make some moves, to re-sign guys like Tony Gonzalez, if he elects to come back and not retire, Brent Grimes, William Moore, and guys of that nature. And so we'll see what the Falcons decide to do. They have money to play with now. And so they can make some moves in this offseason and be some players so they can test the waters if they like. Finally, the state of the fan base for the Atlanta Falcons. The state of the fan base is extreme optimism. You were one game, essentially one quarter away from making it to the Super Bowl a season ago. You have a very young team, and it's got a very solid core of players. Now, you need Tony Gonzalez back. Make no mistake about it. If he comes back, you have to be one of the favorites in the NFC to make it to the Super Bowl. If he doesn't, you'll still be one of the names mentioned, but he's such a big part of your team that you could really use his services back. But make no mistake about it, The Atlanta Falcons are a team that can get it done, and so they'll be a very good team upcoming in the 2013 season. And so when you hear that sound in the background, that means that was the Atlanta Falcons in 5 minutes or less.
Atlanta Falcons, 5 minutes or less.